All my life I felt I was born to be great. I had to do something that would change the world. I still don't know what it is, and I probably never will, but I'm here right now. I gotta do what I came here to do, get what is mine, and make money I never.
Welcome to another episode of Social Impact Conversations with myself, Unhlanhla Shabalala, umfana kamshengu, lona-ke idonga likamavuso. Social Impact Conversation podcast is a platform and a podcast where we sit with change makers shaping their communities through action, advocacy, and purpose. And today is no different. My guest, originally from the land of Irish, is Lorraine Keenan. I need to read this before we actually meet her. She says that she was sitting on a deck overlooking the Lake of Malawi, and as she listened to the volunteers chattering amongst themselves, she heard them sharing their stories and experiences about traveling and contributing to making the world a better place, which essentially not only fed their insatiable desire to travel and explore, but also feed the soul. They were making a difference and it made them feel good. Being able to travel and give back, that's when the light bulb moment happened for her. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome my guest, Lorraine Keenan. Thank you.
Hi.
Welcome. Thank you
Nice
for
to meet you.
Nice to
Finally,
meet
it's
you.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You may take a seat.
I gotta do what I came here to do, get what is mine.
Thank you so much, Lorraine, for joining me. We really appreciate your time. But just also before we start this conversation, I'd like to find out, how are you feeling today?
Yeah, good. Well, very energized. Good day. It's Friday. It's been a long week, a short week, but it's been good.
Good. I love good.
Yeah.
So what we do here at the Social Impact Conversation podcast is that we align the good feeling that you're in with our rainbow colors. So if you were to choose one color that really reflects how you're feeling today, which color would it be?
No, it has to be green because I'm Irish, of course. So.
Green. All right. So
Oh, wow.
let's hear what green says. So green speaks more about growth, healing, and sustainability. And for change makers, green represents healing communities and nurturing long-term impact, restoring dignity and opportunity, promoting inclusion, well-being, and equity, and designing solutions that last beyond projects. And this green also stands for true impact is not temporary, it grows and sustains life.
Wow, that's wonderful. Absolutely. It's my aspirations, I would imagine.
Love it. I
Absolutely right
love
there.
that. So obviously then our guests would like to know who is Lorraine Keenan? Just tell us a bit about yourself, where you come from, and also why you chose to do social work.
Absolutely. Well, I was born and bred and buttered in Dublin in Ireland, and you know, the Irish have a lot in common with South Africa, I think. I came here as a journalist in the early 70s because at the time it was just before the Soweto riots. I always think I came here just in time, and it was a hard time in South Africa through the 70s and 80s, and I worked for the Sunday Times, and then I worked for the Citizen for my sins for a little while. But then I got more involved. I moved away from the news story because it was quite painful,
Sure.
and I felt I was beginning to take it on personally. So I moved on to more of industry and trade publications. I launched a publication called Computing SA. But all in all, way back in the bottom of my heart was trying to uplift and do things for the people of South Africa, because I fell in love with this country. I came here to see the purple trees and to have Christmas dinner on the beach,
Yes.
but I'm still here, and it's been absolutely a wonderful experience. I got involved with, I created an organisation called the Irish Women's Association way back in the 80s, and we started doing sort of I hate the word charity, but that was what we used those words in those days,
Sure.
in the 80s. So we started doing lots of charity fundraising, doing things in Orange Farm and in the central city, and trying to get involved with various things. But I was fishing around. I really didn't know what I was doing.
Sure.
But then I took myself off to school, and I did a social entrepreneurship course.
Okay.
And I think that opened the doors for me. It put things into perspective. It gave me a guideline of how to go about things correctly with the inclusiveness that you spoke about, and to be sharing things with people, not giving things to people,
Sure.
and to be learning with people and imparting skills to people as opposed to teaching, which is very derogatory, I think, and whatever. So it put me on the right track of that. And then I was still carrying on doing certain work in that field when then I set out. I had a bit of tragedy in my life. My husband died, my son died, all separately, sad occasions, but that was 20 odd years ago. And I kind of went walkabout for a while, I can tell you. I didn't know what I was doing. But then I took it upon myself. I was up in Malawi, actually.
Yes.
And I was sitting there watching these lovely kids doing things, international kids. And I thought, this is a great idea. Why don't we do it in South Africa? So I came back here with the idea of creating something that would create a revenue stream
Yes.
for the projects and for the organizations that I was working with, the NGOs that I was working with, but at the same time give people a good time. That's why I call it Hero Holidays, because you come here, you have a good time, and you're helping out at the same time.
Wow.
And that's what it's all about. And it's life-changing. I've had, in 13 years, I've had people from all over the world.
Yes.
I've had a lot of Irish, obviously, from
Yes.
my country. I've had Americans, I've had Colombians, I've had Brazilians, I've had lots of people from all different walks of life who've come with the idea of helping and whatever. It's also very, very important that they understand the way we do things, that we
Yes.
don't, that we're not sort of, that there's not the white savior approach. We
True.
are not here to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're learning, and in fact, most of them, when their feedback, they say to me, wow, this was life-changing, this was fabulous, I learned so much, and also cultural exchange, because
I love
for me,
that. Yes.
that's what it's all about.
Yes.
We have got an amazing culture in this country,
Yes.
and the people of this country have a lot to offer, the Europeans and the other continental people, and that's what I try and do. I bridge that gap between the two.
I love that. So, Hero Holiday is probably then the organization that you are currently running at the moment. And you
Yes.
spoke about things obviously like cultural exchange, which I think also is very close to my heart, because exposing both children and youth from South Africa,
Yeah.
even adults,
Yeah.
To the outer world, and vice versa.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot that each of us can be able to learn from that experience, or even that engagement.
Absolutely. You never stop learning. I've realized that. So I work with various projects. I work only with really qualified NGO people who have the purpose that I have, that
Yes.
we're uplifting people and that we're making a difference. And I'm passionate about education. So a lot of my projects are early child development,
Oh, nice.
which is, because I really believe that once we get the little ones a good foundation,
Sure.
which is difficult in the primary schools because of the numbers of kids.
Yes.
So if they can't have that sort of early foundation at the early stages, that by the time they get to primary school, they know their colors, they know their numbers, they can hold a pencil correctly, and all of those kind of simple things that we take for granted. But when you walk into a class of 40 odd kids and you're left behind, then that's when we have the dropouts.
True.
So my goal in life is to have these kids ready for when they go into primary school, they will rise above the 40 kids, and that
Yes.
they will be able to carry on their education, because as Nelson Mandela said, the only way out of this is education.
Yeah, that is true. I love what she said there. And there's an African proverb that says, "Ligojwa lise mans." So it means that you get them, you change their mindset while they're still very young. So early childhood development is amazing. So I just want us to quickly take a break, and then after the break, I want us to touch on some of the community challenges that you've seen. I know that you're big on education, but make sure that you stay tuned. We are still in conversation with a change maker, and her name is Lorraine Keenan. So make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you
All
actually
my life I
comment.
felt I was born to be great. I had to do something that would change the world. I still don't know what it is, and I probably never will, but I'm here right now.
Welcome back to Social Impact Conversations with myself, Unhlanhla Shabalala. I am still sitting with a change maker, and her name is Lorraine. So before obviously the break, we're speaking about your background, what you're passionate about, and obviously the overview of Hero Holidays, So when you came to South Africa, just now post your career as a journalist and post your career after starting the foundation that you started, right? What were some of the community challenges that you literally said, ooh, that is a red flag? What are some of those challenges that you saw, and maybe some of the impact stories that you actually brought in as solutions towards those challenges?
Well, I mean, what I discovered was that there are a lot of capable people, caregivers of all sorts, who really also didn't have the skills to uplift the children or give them basic foundation work. So my first thought was, let's work with the caregivers and give them some, for instance, we would even St. John's ambulance kind of courses, so that if a child is choking, they know what to do.
First aid is
we hit a brick wall in the beginning, because the mamas, folded their arms and said, I've been looking after children for a long time. What are you trying to teach? So we backtracked, and we used our skills, and we said, look, you're very capable of caring for children, but they need some foundation. They need a little bit of foundation is the only word I can think of that it's all about. So I mean, you're not skilled teachers, but you can create
yourself
things.
As well.
I mean, fine motor, taking things and putting them into a tin and playing with bricks and things like that, or just drawing and penciling and getting things. And of course, that was the challenge, was there's no materials. So how are we going to get materials, Lorraine? We don't have any money. Okay, so that was where it all came about, with sort of creating the revenue stream through the volunteer programs. So the volunteers pay to come here, it's a holiday, and a part of their fee goes towards the daycare centres. So we've planted gardens so that kids understand how vegetables grow, because nutrition is one of the huge, big problems I think we have in this country, because children are not getting the right nutrition, and you cannot absorb information or education of any sort if you don't have the education. And it flashed back to me as a child in Ireland, because Ireland had a lot of troubles in the 40s and 50s and 60s, and it flashed back to me that there was a campaign run in Ireland, I remember as a child, called Go to Work on an Egg. And the whole idea was that eggs have got such good value, or such good nutritional value.
Yeah.
So that was another thing. I got involved with an organisation called ABCD, which is Asset-Based Community Development. And through that, they create people in the community to work with what they've got, and to grow chickens or grow vegetables, and be able to self-sustain and be able to sell the eggs, because that is a huge thing to be able to do.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the little projects that I've been involved with, which is quite good. We have all sorts of feeding schemes that, again, is, I don't want to get political, but I mean, there is such corruption at feeding schemes level. But again, we just have to block that out.
Absolutely.
And just concentrate on what we can do.
Yeah.
So by growing vegetables, and by also giving the caregivers a little bit of nutritional knowledge. they're in it now. They're quite happy,
They're
and things are
mastering
happening. And they see the results. The kids are not sick. They're not getting sick as often as they were, and all of that. But we've got a long way to go.
We definitely have a long way to go. I like what you spoke about. Yes, not being political or anything. I mean, I'm just thinking of the Sustainable Development Goals that were brought in by the United Nations.
Yeah.
I know that I think Sustainable Development Goal number 1 and 2, the one speaks to no poverty and the other one speaks to no hunger.
Yeah.
But the challenges then become the different food schemes, not all of them, but the corruption that happens within those. They stop the flow or the ecosystem of the beneficiaries getting not only the food but nutrition to the body that actually helps them focus more and actually concentrate more.
But also it's an educational thing at the feeders level, because when we went through HIV and AIDS, we lost a generation of people. And the knowledge that people had in the farms and in the rural areas, as soon as they moved to the cities and the townships, they lost those people. And they're sitting here thinking, I'm going to say it, thinking KFC is a great food. But I mean, we're trying to convince people, yes, it's okay to have it as a treat every now and again, but you need, and it's easy to grow vegetables, and that it's easy to learn how to cook a little bit better for yourself.
Right, and we've obviously touched a bit on the Sustainable Development Goals, which I believe are actually really something that is awesome, that now is something that we are looking towards there is obviously policies and systems in place that obviously sometimes cause red tapes for maybe even NPOs and NGOs on the ground. What has been your experience with the current policies and maybe with government departments? Probably.
But particularly early child development, which moved from social development to education. So a lot of people think that's a good thing. The jury's out on that at the moment, so I'll say that. But at the same time, I must bring in here that an organisation called Josie My Josie. Do you know about Josie My Josie?
Yes, I've heard about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, they have got the clout. They have got 160 odd corporates behind them and a really good team, and particularly on the educational side, who are in a position to change policy and to get things going, because they are seen as being, they're also a non-profit organisation, whatever, but their objections are very, very good, and they are going to help. So I really see there's a light at the end of the tunnel as far as that's concerned. So we just have to get the policies like child policies where you can have children's daycare centres where you can't, all of that safety and stuff like that. I mean, it's very important, because obviously you've got to have safe spaces, most important, safe spaces. And unfortunately, in the city centre, for instance, that's a problem, because a lot of the people just have no choice but to leave their children in the care of a very good carer, but in a terrible environment. If a fire breaks out, there's a problem. So one of the things that Josie My Josie is trying to do is to get those daycare centres registered, and that's a huge project. In fact, Soweto is ahead of the posse. Soweto's doing very well. I think we've got 50 schools already registered and whatever. So registration means that then they can claim a small stipend for every child in the daycare centre. But more importantly is that it's numbered, it's measured, and it is accountable. You cannot, measure something unless you have account. The numbers. So and it is bureaucracy or it's policy or whatever it is. But I think it's a good one, and as I said, it's important that we know where the children are, we know what they're doing, and we know what the carers are capable of. Because by the time a child gets to 14 years of age, and the background is and the foundation's not there, they drop out of school.
Absolutely.
And then they end up on the streets. And then, and the girl, and also, though we primarily work with early child development projects. We're also busy raising funds at the moment for a girl educational aftercare setup. To put it at levels, actually, on the copy there, and we're looking for a container if anybody wants to donate a container, so that we can have a base.
Yes.
And we have an outdoor library going, but of course it's outdoors, so when it rains is a problem. But we've got tons and tons of books. That's not a problem. And Teacher Bussy that runs it is fabulous, and she is dedicated. She's a retired early child development teacher, so she is fantastic. But we thought the middle girls upwards also need some care, menstrual hygiene care, catch them before they fall, to build up confidence in young girls, so that number one, they don't fall pregnant too soon, or that they are and that they educate themselves, and that they. So that's something that that's a new thing that we're doing. We're also doing camps where we bring young girls and boys into our facility up in Dinnerkane, which is a big 5-game reserve.
Wow.
And they come in and they for free, and they get a whole weekend of an environmental weekend where they learn about the environment, they learn how to respect the environment, they learn about the animals, they learn about camping, outdoor life, and something which they would never have learned.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking the exposure to that space already lights them up.
Yeah,
it shows them, gives them hope
Yeah.
that there's actually more opportunities besides the confined spaces they are in townships.
Absolutely. And I mean, they're surrounded by a game reserve with
Yes.
all big 5 animals and
Animals.
whatever, and they really don't get a chance to appreciate it. So this we've done so far this year we've done 2 camps. We will be doing hopefully another 3, but we have to fund, they cost
Funding,
money, honey,
yeah.
so we need to
Sure.
raise money for that. But yeah, we're busy with that.
I like that. That sounds very, very, very lovely and all glossy, and but it shows that there is definitely light at the end of the tunnel. But I'm sure there has been mistakes that you've done. I'm sure there are lessons that you've learned along your way. Just maybe share some of those.
Oh my goodness. Well, one of the biggest mistakes, and I always talk about it because it was so tragic, was in the early days of HIV. We would take children out of the in Cozy's Haven.
Okay, yes.
Cozy's Haven. We would take the kids out to the zoo or something like that, and we would give them this fantastic day, with cold drinks and chocolate and sweets, and of course they were HIV positive, and so they would have they'd be pooing for weeks. I mean, we just didn't understand.
Sure. Yeah.
We did not know. We thought we were doing a great thing.
Yes.
So sometimes you can kill people with kindness, which is what we were busy doing.
Yeah.
But and then. Funny enough, the carers there didn't really stop us, didn't say, listen, you can't. But that's one thing we learned, obviously going back to the nutrition thing.
Yes, absolutely.
That was, I always remember that, it was hideous, I mean, the poor kids. But, we learned, and they loved it at the time.
Yes,
so,
of course,
then there was the
children.
stomachs afterwards. Yeah, that was one mistake. I suppose also one thing we did at the daycare centres up in Hammanskraal was we raised funds and we gave out blankets. We thought kids need blankets to sleep on the floor, they're in the shacks, that the daycare centre is in a shack, and in wintertime it's cold, so we give blankets. But then we gave blankets, and then the kids mess on the blankets or whatever, and there's no place to wash them because there is no running water. So that was a mistake.
Yeah.
So we learned our mistakes.
Yes,
of course.
absolutely.
So now we do mattresses with the plastic coated, so they can be wiped down, hosed down, wiped down, whatever, whatever. So yeah,
absolutely. You definitely learn from your mistakes. Absolutely,
sure,
and like you said, you keep learning every day. You are never too old to learn. You keep on learning, especially in this industry that we are in as well. You find that other people really have the information. Others are actually go-getters and doers. but you find that these two need each other because this one's got the information, this one can literally run, but now they need each other to actually make
so
sure
that is collaboration, absolutely. And that's one of the things I'm so excited about Josie. My Josie, as I said, I haven't been as active as I want to be there, but it's just a case of logistics at the moment. But I definitely, because they're on the right track and there's wonderful things happening and at the educational level. But there are wonderful people who represent Soweto in the mix. So I'm very confident that they're doing a great job at the moment, and the fact that I can't help at the very moment is fine.
Nice.
I'll get back on the horse when I can.
I think while we're at that, how important is ethical leadership, especially in this NGO space, in the educational space? So just tell me what's the importance of ethical leadership, and maybe a young Lorraine is actually watching this episode and saying, I really have this fire in me. I want to become a change maker. What advice will you also give a young person out there?
Well, look, leadership, ethical leadership is crucial. I mean, to have values, number one, to have an honest way of looking at things. When you just can't afford things, you just can't afford things, and that's it. And that's why I started Hero Holidays, because we were creating a revenue stream. Because going with the begging bowl and looking for funding is not working. I mean, it's really not. And a lot of NGOs sit back and wait for the manna to fall from heaven, and it doesn't. It doesn't. So it's very important that you have, but honestly, just to be able to say, this is the money we got, and this is how we spent it, and this is how I know with my projects, because I oversee them and I know what's going on, that every single penny is accounted for.
Sure.
Which is, I can sleep at night
knowing
that that
absolutely.
happens.
I love that. Ethical leadership goes with values. And then for maybe any young child out there, a young change maker who wants to come into this space, what advice would you give them?
Well, the advice I would give them is that it's not easy. Nothing's easy, but I think that the rewards when you see a happy little bunch of kids and you know that they've progressed in the years and they can do their work and show some sign of creativity. It's very heartwarming. But you need to learn a lot yourself first of all. So you need to do the courses. You need to get involved, and you also need to understand that you need to create a revenue stream. There's no such thing as a free lunch. It is obviously everything you do is going to cost money. So you look back and say, how can I raise money here? Sometimes the vegetable growing is a revenue stream. Sewing, women in the community that learn how to sew and that know how to sew and sew beautifully, do that kind of thing. Even craft of all sorts, art. I mean, have all of those kind of connections in your network, because they are the ones that are going to create the revenue for you to be able to do the good work.
I love that. I really, really love that. Think of a revenue stream that's going to actually sustain the organization itself. Because I like what you just said. The give bow does not work at all. And also, I guess, even sponsors and donors get tired of you coming all the time.
At the same time. And life is tough. They don't have the money that we used. They don't have the expendable budgets. They don't, and there's so many mouths to feed.
We are actually nearing to the end of our conversation. So what we're going to do is just take one last ad break, but also when we come back, I want you to tell me what is the vision for Hero Holidays and how can our viewers get involved and support you. And then we'll just close it up with just one thing. Right, make sure that you stay tuned. This is the Social Impact Conversation podcast with myself and Tlantla Shawalala. See you after the break.
All my life I felt I was born to be great. I had to do something that would change the world. I still don't know what it is, and I probably never will, but I'm here right now.